Welcome back to Feed the Post. I am your host, Joe Jackson. Joining me, as always, is my friend and co-host, Aidan Kunst. We haven't done an actual pod, so I'll ask you, Aidan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. I wish Miami would have won for my wallet. I had them. We did like a random draw of teams out of hats, and I had Miami. So I had Miami and Texas. So I was rooting for Texas last week. Miami wins. I was kind of holding out hope, but it is what it is. UConn's a wagon, so I wasn't really getting my hopes up with that. But yeah, I'm doing good. Doing good. It was a good night of hoop.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first game, and we'll get to it in a sec, was phenomenal, of FAU San Diego State. That was the first true buzzer beater of the tourney, right? There was the Furman, but Furman was still with 2 seconds.
Yeah, true, because it was the first one since Suggs, I think, in the COVID one, is what I had seen.
Okay,
so a couple years, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's always fun. And just tweeting out that we're live really quick, and then we'll get into this. But yeah, really great night of hoops. UConn just looks like they're the best team, and they showed it today. And Miami was able to do a little bit to get back in. San Diego State just eventually plays their style of ball, and it works. And yeah, that's just what it is. Sorry, I'm bad at multitasking.
No, you're good.
All right, there we go. Now we're good. We're going to talk about FAU San Diego State first. San Diego State wins 72-71 over FAU, a game that FAU led for 31 minutes and 42 seconds. I have stat broadcast, and we can bring that up in a minute. It's just a game that FAU, in the lead time shows, they just dominated the first 30 minutes. That first half especially, it was just man, I mean, we were, in our group chat and that we were talking oh yeah, FAU can beat UConn. FAU can definitely do that. And they just end up not winning. And I know a little bit was the refs for sure. I don't think they were great at all in the second half. And I talked to, I think that I honestly thought FAU had a favorable whistle the first 10 minutes, but then the last 10, they definitely did not.
Yeah.
And if you're a team, you want those, if it's going to be like that, you want those reversed for sure. And then San Diego State they played enough defense. FAU made some uncharacteristic plays. I really thought so down those last 10 minutes, just Davis wasn't great. He had the full court pass thing and just some of the shots that they were taking, I thought wasn't quite in the rhythm. They got away from the drives and kicks. It felt like a bit. And San Diego State just kind of lives and dies by, we're going to take tough jumpers and hopefully our score is higher than yours. Not even that they make enough, just hopefully our score is higher than yours. So what are your thoughts from the game and as we dive into it?
Yeah, I definitely agree that FAU dominated for the majority of the game. I thought they were just rolling. I mean, Martin was playing so well. They were just doing everything they pretty much wanted to do. It was their kind of game, up and down. Like I said, a fairly favorable whistle in that they weren't, this was always a game that if the refs were going to let them play, it would benefit FAU because, they can get up and down. They like to get, into transition, but I think as the game tightened up and when they got out to that 14-point lead, it kind of felt like they were going to run away with it. San Diego State answers with a couple key buckets there to kind of stem the tide. And then we just get into I really felt the whistle, not necessarily that, it cost them the game or anything. It just got them out of the type of game they want to play. And it made it more of a half-court game. And now all of a sudden, instead of, getting rebound on a miss and running, you're at the line. And whether or not they make those free throws, which they by and large didn't, if they had, it might have been an easier win for San Diego State, honestly.
Yeah.
But they were bricking free throws at the line. But point being,
and getting every offensive board off.
And that was the big piece that I think kind of flipped was FAU just couldn't get an offensive rebound over and over again. The way that San Diego State plays, it just generates a lot of weird rebounds because they're not the greatest shots, obviously. From all over the court. I think, I don't know, I have their shot chart or anything, but it felt like just weird long twos, threes, whatever, from every part of the court. And so I think and I thought just this sort of that grown man toughness showed up. Yep. Bradley, I mean, it just felt like he was just there at every offensive rebound with huge muscular frame. He was just bigger than everybody else. getting to offensive boards, running them down, whatever. And then, yeah, like I said, I think, again, there are a few tough ones, real tough ones. The golden block stands out. I mean, that was just a block, and they call it. They're going to miss some stuff. And you're frozen again, so I don't know if
Yeah.
you want to hop out. I can keep talking. And then, like you said, FAU got uncharacteristically, stagnant in the half court. And I thought, to your point, John L. Davis really struggled. He really did not seem like he was locked in from a decision-making perspective. Not to say he didn't make a couple nice plays. He certainly did, with that herky-jerky style of his. But, yeah, he just wasn't quite his usual self, it didn't feel like, and made some poor decisions down the stretch. I even thought on the inbound there late, like just throw it into Golden, but he locked in on a guy who was denied. If he had thrown it into Golden, maybe they could have just run a little get action, played out of the corner there a little bit, and been a little more fluid than having to draw something up all the way over again. So, yeah, they're just uncharacteristic, not the FAU team we've seen all season, or certainly for the first 30 minutes of that game. And San Diego State, obviously, we know they're never going to stop coming at you with different waves of guys, and they kept coming, and eventually, like, they, but we haven't even said it, that they obviously went on a tough shot where guy rises up, and it was just perfect. It was perfect mechanics, and
Yeah.
the absolute perfect ending to that game.
And I tweeted it. I did not, the 2 seconds when he like kind of snatched back. We're talking about the Butler game winner, obviously. When he kind of snatched back with 2 seconds left on the baseline, I was like, oh, he's literally not getting a shot up. Like, I thought he lost control, and I was just like, yeah, this is they lost. They're not getting a shot up. Gets control, pulls up, drills it. An iconic moment that, that's going to be one that's going to be brought up for a long, long time. Pure buzzer beater in the Final Four. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. We'll pull up the stats here. I'll pull up actually real quick just because you were talking about it. Here's the shot chart.
Oh, yeah, nice. Yeah.
So,
that checks out.
Yeah, a lot of mid ranges here. You can see FAU is more threes in the rim, and then they have a couple middies that they missed. San Diego State's just, hey man, if you're confident in your shot, chuck it up there, and it's worked for them so far in this tourney. So, because that's just what it is, right? It's like, it isn't pretty, and this is where personally I found myself, and it doesn't make sense, and I know it doesn't make sense, but I found myself rooting for San Diego State for honestly most of the game.
Really?
And like you know me, I'm a process guy. I like the analytics. I like efficient basketball, good actions on offense, which is FAU to a T. San Diego State's not, and for some reason I was just drawn to it. I just the physicality, and like they just don't, the way that they play doesn't look like they should win always, or a lot of times to me, honestly, but they just do. And I don't know why, but I did just find myself drawn to it.
Yeah, and I think they kind of lull you to sleep a little bit too. I mean, there was a lot of talk about, and I'm the opposite. I mean, I was rooting for FAU unabashedly, but at the same time, like, there was a lot of talk, I think, going into the game of like, oh, FAU gets a lead, like there's no way this San Diego State team can come back. But the reality is they string so many stops together, or they can at times, that if you get a little unfocused or bored with your lead, as I think young teams have a tendency to do, and we got to remember there's a huge age discrepancy in this game. So FAU gets that lead, and then it's just not safe against the San Diego State team, because they're not going to stop. They're going to keep coming. And I think, again, you have to have, we saw it with Miami and UConn, if you can't string stops together, you can't make a comeback. And yeah, you can have all the explosive offense you want, but I think their ability to just drag you slowly into the mud, they did to Creighton, they did to Alabama. Both those teams have way more offensive talent than them. But again, they came back from leads because the other team got stagnant for whatever reason, whether they were calling fouls or not. A lot of times not. But you know what? They're not. They're not complaining about that. I mean, they're not apologizing for that. So who cares? Like, to force the ref to call the foul, and if they're not going to, okay, sorry, we're moving on. And they've done that to basically 3 straight teams that were pretty clearly by the eye test more talented than them.
And that's just, that's been San Diego State's MO. Like, I don't recall the exact scores of the Bama and the Creighton games, but it was either close. Like, I think it was pretty close both times, or maybe the Creighton game, Creighton might have even been up a bit at I don't know if you remember.
Oh, they were up. They were up. Yeah.
Yeah, Creighton was like in both games, and it wasn't quite to the extent in this game, but it was similar. Like the Bama and Creighton game, they just had a 8-minute stretch of insane defense, and then they just went on a heater and just drilled all their jumpers. I don't think there was as much of a like heater stretch that San Diego State went on today, but it was just a lot more grind, like you said. Like just it was a slower like wear down. It was interesting, right? Because like that's who San Diego State is. Wear teams down, just force mistakes towards the end. But FAU is legit 9 deep. I mean, we're looking at the stats here because this will be going up on the audio platform. Everybody for FAU played at least 12 minutes. Like they have the team that can kind of balance the physicality, it seems. I mean, you look at San Diego State's minutes. 7 guys play 20 plus minutes. Only one guy plays 30. It's Bradley, and then 2 are double digits, 12 and 14. Like
and like the FAU's shown an ability to play these kind of teams really well. I mean, Tennessee is like that, but I think any team, whether you're deep or not, I mean, when you get a lead like that in the Final Four, I think you're naturally, it's difficult to prevent a little bit of resting on your laurels, as much as, from the fans' perspective, it's like, well, come on, you're up big, you were in the Final Four, like it's just kind of human nature. You get a little more comfortable, you get a little more stagnant, and like you said, I don't think they were able to find that rhythm again, and just standing around watching them shoot free throws, not being able to get out and run, and all of a sudden it's 5, it's 6. You're looking up that scoreboard, it's 8 points, it's 6, it's 4, and now you're starting to get tight, and I think they got tight and down the stretch there didn't feel like they had a real felt like watching a lot of Miami, really, which was just kind of standing around, maybe take a guy off the dribble, whatever, but not really run too much action.
Yeah, and I have the second half stats here. Like, more aside from Martin, who he went off. We'll talk about him. We should probably talk about him a bit. Like, 3-point shooting was 3 of 8 for FAU. Like, that's what you expect. SDSU is 4 of 7 in the second half, which is big. But then what is that? That's 5 of 16 from 2 with 7 turnovers in just the second half for FAU. Compare that to 8 of 21, which still isn't great from 2 at all, but only 3 turnovers for San Diego State. Like, just force mistakes that FAU really doesn't. Martin led the game with 26. Bradley showed up for the first 5 minutes, and then like the last 5 minutes, at least for scoring the ball. And they needed every single one of the buckets. They go 9 of 18 from 3, which is, I don't know what their season percentage is off the top of my head. They're not like a great 3-point shooting team. So
no, and there's really there's
some shot variance there too.
Yeah, it didn't really feel that way. It didn't feel like they were 50% from 3 just watching the game.
Because they were all tough. Literally, 3 of Bradley's were just like jab step. I'm pulling this with your hand in my face, and he was
impressive. He was impressive. He and Martin were really stellar. I like Martin's game a lot. He's I think they were talking about him having a football background. You can kind of see that.
That makes sense.
That explosive athlete. Probably, I mean, I don't know what year he is or anything, but I think he could definitely play in the league. So just another guy where it's like, okay, we got this other dude who could just go off, to have that level of talent at FAU's level is pretty insane that they have like as many dudes as they do.
Martin's a sophomore, so
okay, and most of these guys weren't.
No, he's a junior. Sorry,
okay.
KenPom had it weird.
But I do think we did say that everyone can come back except Forrest, right? So
Forrest, yeah. Last thing before we jump to Miami UConn and then preview the championship. What did you think of Golden playing down the stretch? Because I thought it should have been Rosado. I don't know if you have a different opinion or at least a reason why maybe it was.
No,
Golden.
I just think I think Rosado's. It's just in your mind, you're thinking, gosh, he's going to get exposed by Mensah or Liddy or one of those guys on the other end. I loved his game. I mean, the fadeaways were awesome. They kind of random, just not great shots, but for him, they are, but Golden, and he really hurt him at the free throw line. I mean, he really did down the stretch there, missing a couple, free throws.
1 of 5 from the line.
Yeah, and it felt like that was late. So I don't know. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I thought defensively too, it wasn't like, because that's the thing is Golden's a big rim protector. Yeah, San Diego State wasn't just going to take it to the rim really, and when they did, I didn't think Golden really impacted. So then
I didn't either. I didn't think
That's where I thought you'd
involved.
take Rosado with a little bit more of the offensive upside, but
I think that's fair. No, I think it's fair. That's kind of why I think
yeah,
probably did that. And they said he was trying to go offense defense at some point. I don't know if that ever really
I don't know if
manifested
it worked
itself.
out.
I don't think it did, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, we can jump to, and we'll talk about San Diego State again in a second.
Right.
After we talk about UConn beating Miami 72-59, I believe that was the final score. Yes, it was. Miami makes a couple runs in the second half, but this was just UConn. And we were, as we talked before a bit, before the show, it wasn't the prettiest. Like this wasn't like an A+ UConn game by any means. But he just kind of flexed their muscle. We're just like, yeah, we have the most pieces. And I think this shows, like, at the end of the day, and there's debate. You need guards in March. I think that's proven. I don't think you can't deny that, right? You need guards in March. But at the end of the day, and it makes sense, right? Just in basketball in general, the more versatility you have, the better you are. UConn has good wings. They don't, I guess they have guards, but they're more wing type players, I think, for the most part. Like, they have the ability to knock down threes. They have the ability to dominate the glass. They have the ability to throw it to Sonogo and just let him feast. They have the ability to get Sonogo and Clegan on rolls or push, or, like, they have all these different things. Miami is very much a, guard wing. We're going to attack. We're going to push. We're going to put up threes, and we're going to beat you with elite shot making. When that isn't there, what do you fall on? For UConn, they could, something's not there, they can go somewhere else. And I think that's just really what stood out to me. It's just like, the more versatility you have, the better you are. And obviously it's like a statement, but like, I think it just really, really stood out to me. UConn's the best team. Like, and if we're going to, I'm also a believer in, like, March Madness is the absolute worst way to pick a champion, but it is by far the most fun. UConn might just be the most deserving team, period, this year. Like, especially, and I know you can't just be like, oh, just exclude this and then they're amazing. Like, but it really was. It was a 1 month stretch. They were absolutely terrible. You can't, like, take that away, but also, like, they were dominant pretty much everywhere besides that month. I think that's just kind of shown in March.
No, it has, and it's not like this isn't a 1 seed where they got a 16 and then a bad 8-9. Like, they had to play Rick Pitino in the first round.
Yeah.
Then a St. Mary's team in the second round, and so on and so forth. Ultimately, I think Arkansas was maybe a little bit of a break, but Gonzaga and now Miami. So yeah, no, they are certainly the best team up to this point. I think a few things stood out to me. I think Blake Widmer makes a good point. I think Omier was really outplayed. He was really outclassed by both.
Go to Klingen's unfair.
Yeah, no, it's unfair. And I think if you don't, his inability to stretch the floor stood out. I mean, because he's really good in ball screens usually, but it just doesn't matter as much against their drop. And UConn just got guards who really, they stepped up and they locked down the Miami guards. I mean, it was not an easy showing for those guys at all. And it's all the guys. I mean, it's not just Jackson, who I know is their primary defender. They didn't have him for 16 minutes in the first half.
Yeah.
When he got sat with 2 fouls. So, like, it's guys like Newton, it's Hawkins who, again, was on like a stomach bug or whatever. Even Calcaterra stepping in there, like, that's a hell of an 8th man, and I mean, Aline played well tonight, I thought. Caravan's awesome for being a freshman, especially.
He hit some big shots, it felt like.
Yeah, he is
a couple of those just like, we're going to shut down kind of Miami's run and keep him at bay.
I wonder what his ceiling is. I mean, in college, because the fact that he's so cerebral. I don't know if his athletic. I mean, I can't really ever picture him taking guys off the bounce necessarily, but maybe. I mean, don't want to put a ceiling on the guy, but really impressive player for as young as he is. And then Newton, I thought, was great. Newton was really good and was step for step with most of those UConn guards, and so I think it's definitely one of those, like, the parts or whatever, the whole is bigger than the sum of its parts, or however you say that phrase.
Yeah,
I always mix that up because it even though Sonogo is a star, certainly he's not. They just have a bunch of dudes, and not none of them are necessarily overwhelming. But I think when all put together, it's like, where do we go? If you're an opposing team, what do we do here? We can't There are just too many threats, too many guys who are just cerebral, like you said, decision makers at every spot, great dribble pass shoot guys at every spot. And then, an identity of, hey, ultimately we're going to get it to Sunogo. I think Hurley and that staff from an X's and O's standpoint are so good.
They run some good stuff.
The end of the half ATO where they ran that little backside hammer play, got Caravana 3. That's just one example of just an awesome night from them, especially.
And that was a great play with great players, because the play is the hammer screen for the guy in the corner. That's right. He reads that covered, and it was Caravan, right? Or
he slipped out of it essentially.
Yeah, slipped out, and Newton I think made the pass.
Newton, yep.
Just a great read off of a great play too.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. If you can mix an awesome X's and O's coach with players who can make those kind of reads, that's where you're cooking. I thought a couple of the high-low stuff they ran, getting Calcaterra to throw it in there was awesome too. Kind of reminded me of watching these guys back here. I know that was a long time ago, but
Purdue for audio podcasts.
Yeah, audio guys. Too. Purdue. This is a nice little reminder of that team. That
their high-low stuff and the seals for Sunogo, I thought they were elite.
They were.
It felt like, and Sunogo's so good. He just bodies people.
He bullied Omir for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I don't think that's as much a fault as Omir. It's just Sunogo's good. Then UConn puts him in a good spot. Like you said, I think they run a lot of good stuff. They really, really do. They're constantly moving. And then it's just if Miami was okay, we're going to try to take away Sunogo. Now, UConn's all right, we have 4 guys, 3.5 guys on the perimeter. The half being Jackson of we can knock down threes, or with everybody's just we'll take you off the bounce. We don't care. And then Jackson's, an elite. He doesn't shoot well, but he's an elite facilitator. Bringing this to Purdue just real quick, if Ethan Morton just had the athleticism of Jackson.
Yeah. It's a good comparison. I mean, really.
It'd be what he was.
He's like a Caravan almost a little bit, but he doesn't shoot as well.
No, but we'll keep it back. UConn, Miami. This we can pull up the stats here real quick, and then talk. Preview the championship. But this was just a game Miami cut its width to double or single digits at some point. But when we look at the first half, 9 of 36 for Miami for overall, and it doesn't say attempts at the rim. I think I could get that here. Great thing about doing this live.
Yeah, I know they missed 14 layups.
8 of 23 layups for Miami.
15, yeah.
And in the first half, it doesn't say first half. 8 of 23 at the rim, or 10 of 25 including dunks. 10 of 25, so that's 40%. And that's your game right there, right? You can't shoot 40% at the rim in a March Madness game and expect to win. No. A lot of it is UConn, and like you said, not being able to pull out Sunogo and Klingon. Now they, with Omir, if Omir could stretch and be a legit threat, now maybe they have to take a step out. Right. They didn't really have to. And now you're just running into Sunogo or Klingon, and Klingon's awesome. We can see how many blocks did he end up with? It probably only was a couple, but he only had 1 block, but he affected everything. It felt like.
It was a loud block too, wasn't it? And boy, the Klingon. I mean, he at times. For me, and I've obviously watched a lot of UConn this year just because they've been so good. Sometimes he just doesn't really make much of an impact. And, it's kind of because he's just a freshman or whatever. Tonight, he made a huge impact in his 13 minutes, just impacting everything around him. I think, I do remember this. That was a big shift. Where Wong, the fast break. He definitely got fouled on that one. So that was tough. But again, like you said, I just thought their guys didn't quite hit a lot of the shots they've been hitting all tournament. Whether it was Wong, Pack, I thought was a little timid, hit a couple threes, but never felt like he got in a rhythm. Poplar was just non-existent. And just needed more from him. And then Miller, I know he can hit that turnaround, but even he felt like some shots that he's made this tournament didn't go either. And Omir was just neutralized. So, it was a combination, I think, of Miami missing some good looks. Certainly at the rim, Wong missed a few that were they impacted. Should he make them? Does he make them? Yeah, most of the time, So I don't know. It felt like a little bit of both as far as UConn, but their first half defense was so good, UConn. And then the second half, it was kind of just trading buckets,
Yeah, I mean they held them to 24 in the first half. One of the
Yeah, it's
top
crazy.
10 offense, whatever. I don't know what their exact number is at this point, but
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
and looking at the stats, right? Like UConn went 9 of 26 from three, and I was just like, man, that feels way off. Obviously, it's right, but they went 6 of 13 in the first half too, and that's part of it. Is
yeah.
they have guys that can get on these heaters. I think they're a solid shooting team pretty much everywhere. Really, Jackson, and then I mean, I guess not Sonogo. I was going to say Jackson and the bigs, but Sonogo knocks down 2 today.
Right.
Klingon's obviously not a threat from 3, but like everybody else, at least has respect from the 3-point line. If not, is considered a shooter. And so, first half, Miami goes 3 of 10 from 3. UConn goes 6 of 13 from 3. Miami goes 6 of 26 from 2, and UConn goes 8 of 15. And that was just it. And Miami couldn't quite, they played them. They played even in the second half, 35-35, just not able to overcome it. At the end of the day, UConn 19 assists compared to Miami 10. I don't know if you want to touch on Miami not really moving the ball or just
Yeah,
ISOing first half, and then maybe we can move on to the preview in the championship.
yeah. I'll just hit on it quick because I know we want to preview it, but yeah, it just was a lot of ISO ball. It was bad shot selection. It was just standing around, and part of that is because they didn't have where to go, a lot of places to go with the UConn defense, especially with, like I said earlier, not being able to play 5 out really because they didn't respect O'Meara. But yeah, and I've watched, I think, pretty much every Miami game other than the Drake one. I remember I couldn't watch that, but pretty much every Miami game, and like it feels like they're more of a structured freedom kind of thing, where I had been impressed in recent viewings of Miami this tournament where they just shared the ball, felt like they found the open man, driving kick obviously is their base, never really running sets per se, but certainly a little bit more ball movement, a little bit more flow, and just felt like UConn took them out of everything they wanted to do, including their rhythm offensively. They just really stood around. There were long possessions where it was not until the last 7 seconds of the shot clock where they got going. And you ask any college coach, they'll tell you, that we want to score before those last 7 seconds because those last 7 seconds is ISO time,
Yeah.
and it felt like Miami wasn't really making much of an effort. Kind of just felt like swing, pull it out, whatever. So just again, I just don't want to. I don't want to just gloss over how good UConn was defensively, but it felt like okay, they're just kind of standing around. Let's get something going here, and it to me it really didn't really ever happen, and I think really, like we said earlier, missed opportunities when it did happen at
Yep.
the rim. Yeah.
Yeah. They cut it, couldn't quite get it. UConn's also they've just been dominant. I'm looking, I have their KenPom pulled up. Like so January 25th, they lose at home to Xavier by 3. So that's, losing at home is not great. Since then, so January 31st on, their 2 losses are at Creighton by 3 in middle February, and then they lost to Marquette by 2 in the Big East tourney.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've won every other game besides that with, oh man, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of those wins coming by double digits. So 12 of like the 15 in that stretch, 13 and 12 of the 13 in that stretch by double digits. So like UConn's just straight up good. Can San Diego State beat them? You think that they
Um,
can? Or what do you, maybe I frame it differently? Because I assume we both will lean UConn for picking, but like,
yeah.
what does San Diego State need to do, you think, to make it a game?
Hmm. Well, I know it's a 6-point line. So
Okay.
Vegas not a big believer there in San Diego State. I don't know. I think keep it within striking distance, from a game management perspective, and then kind of try to do what you did tonight, and then grind it out. I think Bradley can kind of score over anybody, so I would look at him. I think if they can take away Sonogo in a way that, or the bigs, I should say, not just Sonogo, but I think they do have the big defenders to make that a problem. And maybe now you start to try and make a Hawkins who may still be sick, a Newton, whoever, make them beat you. At that point, you're feeling a little bit better. Sonogo will get his; he's a great player, but if the combo of Arup and Mensa and Ladi, whatever his name is, like if that trio, and I know they have another guy I think that comes in who's big too.
Parrish?
Yeah,
Not
maybe
Parrish.
someone else who's kind of awkward but pretty good. Maybe not. Maybe it's just those three. But
Mensa. a rope,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yeah, Johnson.
Ladie.
I mean, Johnson's more of a wing anyway, but either way,
Yeah.
like, yeah, line's already at 7.5, I guess. So that's, yeah, not a lot of belief. I think it'll be closer than that. I
Yeah.
guess I'll just say that right now. I do think it'll be single digits, just because it's the Natty. But like I said, I think your game plan's got to be trying to take those guys away because you've got the guys who can do it. Yeah,
Yep.
Musa and Johnson. So like you can throw a bunch of guys at them, you can hack them. You got guys behind them who can come in and do a serviceable job as well. So you got to take those guys away. Certainly, be very careful. I would maybe, when they're trying to run some of that high-low stuff, maybe you just say to take the worst shooter and help off of him, and maybe
Yeah.
take that chance and then try to get into a rotation game. I think I'd be okay with that. But yeah, you can't let those guys, just feast.
Yeah. You probably need to turn it into a jump shooting fest, and then you just hope that like Hawkins and that just don't go nuclear, which they
Yeah.
can do.
Yeah, but that's how you'd like to be beaten if you're going to be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, probably want to slow the game way down. And I know UConn's fine playing that way too. They're not like a super fast, but like probably limit possessions, really just try to grind it out. The one area, as I pull this up to get the exact stats, UConn's 236th in turnover percentage. San Diego State doesn't force like the most, but they have the physicality, they have the length. And I think that's the biggest, I think that's why, like, honestly, I think San Diego State's a better matchup or they're a better matchup against UConn than Miami was, just because like they have guys that can at least battle, like you said, with Mensa, Johnson, and Parrish and a rope, like, and just everybody in general, besides maybe Trammell, who's 5'10" guard. Everybody just is strong. Like Bradley's just strong 6'4". Like Ladie's strong. Like everybody has muscle and can kind of bang down low and battle. And so I think that poses more of a problem. If San Diego State can slow it down and, like you said, limit the inside, I think that's probably what it is. You just live with the outside stuff, which is easier said than done because UConn runs such great stuff, and they'll run handoffs and on the weak side have like a stagger coming off or Ricky actions or whatever. Just like they run such good stuff that it's not like just sell out on the middle and then things are easy. Like, but if they can do that, and then they just you gotta have good shot making. They probably have to have better shot making than what they did today, or at least close to it.
Yeah.
This was one of their better shot making games, but like it's just who they are. I think they're in like the 96th percentile for mid ranges attempts per game. They just take a ton. They don't make a ton, and so you can't say like, oh, just get away from who you are and what got you here. But some of those have to fall. The tough ones are gonna have to fall. If they can hit the tough ones, slow the game down, maybe force some turnovers, then I think they have a legit chance.
I do too.
I still think UConn wins, but I do think it'll be. I changed my tune when I made the final selections on our Purdue recap show from a couple days ago. If anybody listening, definitely go check that out on YouTube, Brags in the Stands. I picked UConn and San Diego State, and then I said UConn would roll San Diego State. I do think San Diego State keeps it, even if they end up losing by 10 because of fouls and stuff like that. I do think they keep it within reach, and it's not like today where it's just like, yeah, this game's kind of over at the 5 minutes into the second half.
Yeah, they got to play better. The shot making from the free throw line needs to be better.
Yeah.
I think that'll be the other big factor is how's the game officiated. I mean, how is the game officiated? I think I think San Diego State is, again, like if they keep getting the whistle they've gotten, I think they'll be in good shape for the most part. Not that that's the reason they're here. It's certainly not, but it is helpful in the fact that that's kind of how they've decided to play. And so again, like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they get some favorable calls. Hurley maybe starts to go nuts. UConn starts to get frustrated, and that could make it a little interesting. I had Miami, San Diego State, and I had Miami winning all, so I'm already out. But hey, I think at this point, yeah, you have to take UConn. I mean, it's just,
I'm just
giving up one pick against them. I've tried over and over again because I just don't really like them. But
no, if this is gonna be a super physical game, I think UConn's offense is too good for it to be completely gross. But like, man, if shots aren't falling, there's a chance if this is turns into a jump shooting game. and there's a chance shots just don't fall, and this is like a 62-59 game.
That's true.
Both are pretty slow. Both are pretty physical. But all I want is I just want a close game. I don't know if I really care who wins. Like, I'm cool with San Diego State winning. I've liked watching them, as ugly as it may be, and I'm cool with like a high power mid major, quote unquote mid major, like winning it all. But then also if UConn wins, like they're the most deserving, and I have no issue with them getting it. So I'm just close game is all I really want.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Certainly be nice. Especially with the late night tip, as games always are. So we'll stay up there and on a Monday night and see how that goes. But yeah, I'm sure I don't know if we'll do I don't know. Do you want to do a thing right after again, or do you want to go Tuesday? I don't care either way, really. But,
I'm down. I'm down to go right after.
All right, so we'll be live right after
on
this channel.
For the final game of we'll put it on the audio too.
Tomorrow night, Caitlin Clark going for her title, so that'll be exciting.
That's gonna be good because I mean, I'm assuming you watched the Iowa. Man, that game plan was perfect. It was literally like legit 4-on. It was almost 3-on-5 at times.
And I had it was fascinating. I hadn't seen any of South Carolina other than like just in passing. So I mean, I didn't really realize that it was that. I mean, you got to take those, if only for respect, Yeah,
I mean, she went. There was a screen. It wasn't even a screen. Like, Caitlin Clark was defending, her person at the top,
right?
And then she moved, and there was a South Carolina player on the block. She went under on the block, like
it was crazy.
That's insane.
You got it, I don't know. I mean,
this is what I don't get, and if Ethan Bourne got it some, it's just like, is it like, and I don't know, I'm not going to act like I know the personnel insanely well, so that could be part of it. Is but like, why do they not attack? Like, what's
right?
Just unless you're like really not a ball handler, like, why do you not just attack? Get to the 15 foot mark and then see what happens. At least just once or twice, just to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's psychologically jarring, I'm sure, for a player, to be disrespected in that fashion, that maybe you almost kind of freeze up. But yeah, certainly I think and I mean, if you don't want to attack, just chuck it up and hope that Aaliyah Boston goes and, I mean, and then now they have to guard you at least a little bit if you prove you'll shoot them, So I don't know. It was crazy, but that's gonna be a great game tomorrow night. I don't know what the line
Clark is nuts.
Yeah, she's awesome, and Angel Reese is pretty awesome in her own right. So
it'd
be a fun one.
That should be a good one. Definitely check that out. Anybody that is listening, 3:30 Eastern. LSU has been really good. Caitlin Clark, nothing really needs to be said about her. Back-to-back 40-point games, one of them being a triple-double to get Iowa to the championship. Like, just unreal stuff. The shot making, the drives, like the game. She processes the game at just a different level than most people, period, on earth. It's unreal to watch. So we will be back, like we said, after the championship game. Aidan, you got anything else?
No, I'm good. See you guys Monday night.
Yep, we will be back live after the UConn San Diego State game, hopefully a close game, and then we'll talk about that. And then we'll get into offseason stuff, and we'll kind of let you guys all know what the plan is with that as that happens. But appreciate everybody tuning in, and then we will catch you in the next one.